Today we're going to talk about Blue-Eye Samurai, and specifically some of my predictions for season 2. So the show pretty much stopped everyone in their tracks. It was like if you went to the beach to chill and all, and while you're there collecting pebbles, you finally strike gold. For those who might be confused, Netflix is the beach, this show is the gold. That was pretty much what the show was, and the show was highly praised by critics. And me, apparently. While Netflix does have great shows, their animated series leave a lot to be desired. The likes of Castlevania and Samurai Rabbit were okay, but really didn't meet that golden standard. This show, however, takes everything good in the story and makes it even better. And I am so glad Netflix decided to trust their gut and make this an animated series, because that choice might have just been what made the show as outstanding as it is. The animation was so visually pleasing, the attention to detail with the setting, the beautiful art style. At some point I was actually impressed at how much detail was put into just the snow falling. That is wild. And even better than all that are the characters and the story itself, which wasn't some faux diversity campaign but was actually a compelling and gut-wrenching body of work. There was blatant gore, more than 2 instances of sex, and heavy racial themes, so obviously this show isn't for kids. And that's one of the reasons it worked so well, I guess. It definitely knew what it was and what it wasn't. Anyway, the first season is ended, and Netflix has deemed it fit to renew this masterpiece for a second season. And I, as a humble story lover, have seen it fit to let y'all know what I think is gonna go down in season 2. And what awaits Mizu in her deliciously vengeful hate escapade. Y'all can't see, but I promise I'm literally having goosebumps, I'm that excited. Anyway, before you go on, I encourage you, if you haven't already, to subscribe to this channel and help me get to 1K subs, so I can buy you that candy bar I promised. It's a deal? Okay, thanks. Before I go into my predictions for season 2, I feel like I have to talk a bit about season 1's finale. It was a blast. I mean, what a payoff with an astounding plot twist. And what is that plot twist? Well, you probably already know this, but for those of you who don't, spoiler alert. Anyway, Mizu and Fowler go neck and neck in the Shogun's castle, and while Fowler somehow manages to plant a punch every other minute on Mizu's face, this somehow just manages to make her even more resolute and scary. Anyway, from the burning castle and Mizu becoming literally Japanese Kill Bill, Fowler's chances were pretty slim at that point, and we were not expecting him to get out of there alive. And that just buttresses the point that humans can get very creative in the face of impending doom. Anyway, he tells Mizu that she won't get to the other 2 white men in her dead book without him. So basically, she needs him. And what a clever move to make, cause that singular act saved his life, at least for now. Mizu is unable to resist and takes Fowler on his word, and now they're both on their way to London. Now that is a fantastic ending to a season, and it leaves so much clues and anticipation as to what's to come. Now, season 2 will take place in 17th century London, since that is around the time when Blue-Eye Samurai is set, the Edo period in Japan. We know from the show that medieval Japan ain't that fun, and we also probably know from other shows that London wasn't that fun either during that time. It was just as brutally harsh and terrifying. Even Fowler himself made that fact very clear when he was telling us his backstory, which involved him essentially eating his sister. Anyway, you get the point. London was just as brutal a civilization, if you can even call it that, at that time. And when Mizu finally gets to London, she will be shocked at how similar yet different it is from Japan. Similar in the sense of hardship and gender roles, different in the sense of the culture. And despite being half white, she's gonna find it really hard to blend in. Now, I really don't know what the writers would do concerning the language. Maybe they'll just take the easy route and make everyone speak English just like in the first season, or maybe they'll introduce the language barrier. In which case, will be an interesting watch, as that on its own would just open a whole building of worms. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But my guess is that they'll go with the easy route to maybe make the story faster paced or whatever. Anyway, moving forward, I think Mizu would be really shocked at how similar the gender roles are in Japan and in London, and how women are also treated with lower regard at that time. Now, at this time, most women in London were housewives, doing the household chores, while men were the providers and protectors of the family. And just like we saw in Japan, women in London also had limited options outside marriage, the most common one being a prostitute and a brothel. Self-sufficient women were extremely rare, if present at all, so naturally this gave room for giant gender inequality, with men hitting their wives basically being normalized. Mizu would be able to relate with these struggles. After all, she basically turned into a man to avoid them, and it would help her sympathize with, particularly the British women, a bit better. And as we've seen in season 1, it's easy to tell that Mizu has a soft spot for women, and can relate with their struggles, even though she doesn't like to show it. So I reckon she'll make a female British friend before the end of the season, probably also to just replicate that relationship she had with Akemi in season 1. But that's up for large debate. This might also be the point where Mizu starts to see the humanity in the British people and not think of them as absolute spawns of the devil. Third prediction. Mizu would be just baffled at how common guns would be in London, as many law enforcement will be using, or maybe she wouldn't be phased at all. Knowing her, it's very possible for her to just have that reaction as well. And knowing her, she would determine to adapt and learn to do with the gun what she can do with the sword. And she would be relentless. We already saw her using a gun to attack Fowler at the Shogun's castle, and as we all know, she can discard the whole concept of honor rather quickly. And she's very practical too. She abandoned making her perfect steel just to get to Edo in time and stop Fowler. As long as she kills who needs killing, she is satisfied. And you can bet that she will do what needs to be done to get what she wants, even if it means it won't be with a sword. Does that mean she'll give up sword fighting? I highly doubt that. I mean, it's the whole brand. It's literally called Blue-Eye Samurai. I do feel she'll use the two interchangeably though, depending on the circumstances. The fourth prediction is that Mizu will see a black man for the first time in her life. Yes, I'm not joking about this one. This was probably around the time that slave trade was booming in England, so yeah, Mizu's probably gonna meet one or two slaves. But knowing her, she's also probably going to be disinterested in their well-being, and she'll probably be indifferent about the whole structure. That said, the showrunners might decide to subvert this, but being consistent with her character, she should be indifferent about them. She'll probably pity them, but that's as far as it gets. 5. Mizu will fall into Fowlers Trap. Now this one is almost certainly going to happen, and that is Mizu will fall into a trap by Fowler. And it's gonna happen early on. Although it wouldn't be easy for him, Mizu's no fool, but it will happen. And she will fall into a trap because she is unfamiliar with the terrain. However, Mizu, through her sheer doggedness and unrelenting will get the information she needs from Fowler and finally slaughter him. That said, things will not be easy for her at all. England will be very brutal to her. Probably even more so than Japan, and that is just scary if you think about it. She'll likely learn about more plots and even bigger conspiracies to conquer even more civilizations, but just like with the shogunate, she wouldn't really care about that. Basically, she'll find out the English people are just as she imagined them to be. Terrible spawns of. Speaking of, what will further buttress this for her would just be the intense class structure the English have. The Japanese obviously have a social hierarchy of their own, but it is nowhere near as prevalent as the British aristocracy, with lords sometimes literally treating peasants like disposable rubbish. Now, out of everything, this particular prediction is the one I think will most likely occur, yet is the one that won't probably happen, and that is Mizu's death. Yes, you heard me right, Mizu will probably die. Why, I hear you ask? Well, it's simple. She'll simply run out of time and be down on her luck. It's just a common theme with these kind of stories. Think John Wick, Kill Bill, you know, the classics. Although the protagonists don't necessarily die, they are usually down on their luck at the end, and only survive through sheer miracles. And if the showrunners plan on ending the show after a second season, which I can actually see happening, they will probably kill Mizu off. And when you really think about it, it's not that far-fetched. I mean, the writers and directors have already proven they are not afraid to turn tropes on their head with the first season and some of their older works. So it wouldn't be a surprise if at the end of season 2, Mizu accomplishes his mission and dies in the process. It will be a bittersweet end and not that bad a way to end the story. Now, truthfully, I don't think this is going to happen in the second season. I do think Netflix will renew the show for a third season. I sure would hope they do. This is more like something that would happen at the end of the story, if you know what I mean. Another thing that's going to happen in season 2, or I guess I should say won't happen, is that Mizu will not meet his father. Or since I said would not happen, I should have probably said Mizu will meet his father. Point is, Mizu won't meet his father, and the reason is rather simple. His real father will most likely be someone who would have a lot to contribute to the story. And by a lot, I mean main antagonist a lot. Our father might be the overarching villain of this story. But then again, that's a far cry because Mizu's father could be literally anyone, and we can even make a whole video dedicated to just trying to find out who he is. It's even quite possible Mizu's white half is from a European woman instead. That is also a likelihood, albeit little it is. So Mizu's white half could be literally from anyone. So this is a far cry. Heck, it could even be Fowler for all we know. He did seem to recognize her when he said, "So you're the one." He claims he isn't her father though, but this show's already established his stance on honesty is the best policy. That said, if Mizu's father is going to be the overarching enemy, as I suspect, he will not be revealed in the coming season, or at least Mizu won't know in the coming season, all just to build that tension. Anyway, it's just a speculation, and really, this is all just my opinion. Literally, none of it could happen. Okay, I'm joking, many, if not all of this, will happen. Hopefully when season 2 does come out, I don't look like a complete moron. Anyway, what are your predictions for season 2? Let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and help me reach that fabulous 1K subs. And watch these 2 videos on your screen next. Thanks for watching. Bye.